The narrative of the drama opens by introducing the female lead, Zhang Shu, a dedicated reporter for China's premier financial newspaper. In a conversation with a friend, she is confronted with the news that she has missed a crucial opportunity to interview the elusive and influential figure, Xian. Undeterred by this setback, Zhang Shu declares her determination to secure another chance for the interview. Her friend expresses skepticism, doubting that Xian would grant an audience a second time, but Zhang Shu's resolve remains unshaken, her motivation burning brightly. The scene then shifts to the male lead, Xian, a man of considerable power and busy schedules. His assistant informs him of an impending interview with a reporter named Yuling scheduled for that evening. However, Xian dismisses this arrangement, revealing a distinct preference. He states that he does not wish to be interviewed by Yuling and instead confesses that he was particularly impressed by the interview outline submitted by Zhang Shu. Taking his cue, the assistant acquiesces and promises to rearrange the interview according to Xian's wishes. Simultaneously, Zhang Shu is summoned to the office of her superior, Miss Y. Anticipating the topic of discussion, Zhang Shu proactively addresses the failed interview, admitting her disappointment and acknowledging room for improvement in her preparatory work, while vowing to perform better next time. Miss Y, however, deflects the professional conversation with a personal observation, commenting on how well Zhang Shu looks. Zhang Shu explains that it is her boyfriend's birthday, and had the interview with Xian proceeded, she would have missed the celebration. It is then that Miss Y delivers the exhilarating news. She has received a call from Xian's office, and he has specifically requested Zhang Shu to conduct the interview. Overjoyed, Zhang Shu immediately reaffirms her commitment to the task. As she turns to leave, Miss Y inquires about the birthday plans, to which Zhang Shu pragmatically replies that birthdays are an annual occurrence, but an interview with Xian is a rare and unmissable opportunity, and she departs. Meanwhile, Xian's assistant is briefing him on his daily schedule. During this, Xian instructs his driver to drop him off at a specific location as he needs to go to the company. In a parallel scene, Zhang Shu is discussing with her friend the scarcity of clear photographs or footage of Xian on the internet. She passionately argues that securing an audio or video interview with him for their magazine would undoubtedly captivate their readership. Her friend, more cynical, points out that their publication lacks the influence to transition into a digital format so powerfully. Zhang Shu, however, remains optimistic and determined, vowing to try her utmost. When Xian arrives at his office, his assistant relays an invitation from a Mr. Guan for dinner that evening. Xian initially refuses, citing a busy schedule, but the assistant persists, mentioning that Mr. Guan wants him to meet a very special person. At this, Xian, who has been looking at a picture on his phone, relents and agrees to attend. The assistant then inquires about the rescheduled interview with the financial magazine, and Xian instructs him to arrange it for another day. In the following sequence, Zhang Shu calls her boyfriend to deliver the disappointing news that her newly scheduled interview with Xian conflicts with his birthday celebration. Her boyfriend is understanding, promising to pick her up once she is free. As Zhang Shu prepares for the interview, her plans are abruptly derailed by a call from Xian's assistant, informing her that the interview is cancelled and postponed to the following week. Zhang Shu pleads for it to be conducted within the next 2 days, emphasizing her readiness, but the assistant refuses. Unwilling to accept defeat, Zhang Shu messages her friend Shen, seeking help to uncover Xian's whereabouts for the evening. Shen informs her that Xian has been invited to a private party hosted by his friend Guangji. Acting on this tip, Zhang Shu proceeds to the hotel. Upon arrival, she approaches Xian's assistant, asking if Xian could spare even a short amount of time for the interview. The assistant promises to relay her request and asks her to wait. As Zhang Shu stands outside the hall, she overhears men discussing how Guan Capital has hired a renowned finance professor, Mr. Yu. She also notices Yuling is present. The assistant goes to Xian and informs him of Zhang Shu's presence. Xian states he cannot do the interview today, but since she is here, instructs his assistant to arrange food and a car to send her back home. While waiting, Zhang Shu experiences a stomach ache and reaches for her medicine, only to find she has no water. As she goes to fetch some, she is aided by none other than Professor Yu himself, who offers her water. Zhang Shu recognizes him, revealing she has read some of his academic papers. She expresses a desire to attend his lectures if given the chance and asks if they can connect on WeChat. At this precise moment, Xian enters with his assistant and witnesses Zhang Shu and Mr. Yu exchanging contact information. Xian observes Zhang Shu intently, recalling that she had once won a magazine currency award at a ceremony he had attended. He remembers leaving the ceremony just as she was called to the stage due to an urgent message, making this his first proper look at her. He begins to move towards her, but his friend Guangji arrives. Seeing Xian, Guangji approaches him, but Xian moves inside as the event commences. Guanji introduces Professor Yu to the assembled guests and then approaches Yuling, telling her he has never seen Xian so excited to meet any girl as he was to meet her. Yuling is visibly pleased by this comment and the three celebrate their new collaboration. Outside, it is raining, and Zhang Shu calls her boyfriend to ask when he will arrive to pick her up. He cites traffic delays. As she waits, Xian's assistant spots her and reports her presence to Xian, who questions why a ride was not booked for her. The assistant explains that Zhang Shu had stated someone was coming for her. Xian then instructs his assistant to offer their car to Zhang Shu. By this time, several people have already offered her a ride. When a car stops for her, Zhang Shu, assuming it is one of the previous offers, declines, stating she is waiting for her boyfriend. It is only when she sees Xian inside that she realizes her mistake. Xian departs upon hearing this. His assistant later observes Zhang Shu's boyfriend arriving and comments that she was indeed waiting for him. Xian questions the assistant's interest in whether it is her boyfriend or not, to which the assistant remarks on Zhang Shu's good looks and that it is normal for her to have a boyfriend. Zhang Shu's boyfriend, Xing, asks her about the interview, but a dejected Zhang Shu refuses to discuss it. Xing then receives a phone call, which he dismisses, though it appears to be from a girl. After Zhang Shu returns home and wishes him a belated happy birthday, Xing receives another call and leaves in a hurry. When Zhang Shu settles in, she realizes she needs to update her editor about the interview but cannot find her phone. Using her iPad's tracking feature, she locates it at a hospital. Alarmed, she rushes there, fearing Xing may have had an accident. At the hospital, she witnesses Xing leaving with another girl. She tries to rationalize that the girl could be just a friend, but her hopes are shattered when she sees the girl kiss Xing. The shock causes Zhang Shu to drop her umbrella, and she stands drenched in the rain before hailing a taxi home, heartbroken. At home, Zhang Shu begins packing all of Xing's belongings. Shortly after, Xing arrives at her apartment, pleading for a chance to explain. In her mind, Zhang Shu vividly imagines herself defiantly declaring, "I am breaking up with you," and slamming the door in his face. In reality, when she opens the door, it is Xing who initiates the breakup. He explains that before meeting her, he found meaning in hard work, but now he no longer desires that life and lacks motivation. He reveals his new girlfriend comes from a wealthy family, and he does not want to miss this opportunity, though he offers to remain friends. Zhang Shu, maintaining her composure, asks if he has brought her phone. After he returns it, she angrily gives him back all his things and retorts, "Who wants to be your friend? Get out from in front of me," before closing the door. Her friend Shen arrives to check on her. Zhang Shu vents her fury over the breakup, revealing her indignation that from all the items she returned, Xing only took back a golden brooch. Shen advises her not to waste anger on such a person. Zhang Shu resolves to channel her sadness into work motivation, declaring her intent to interview Xian the next day. On his end, Xian is at home, researching Zhang Shu online. He remarks to himself that the girl is quite impressive, even as his company has recommended another journalist for his interview. He then receives a call from his niece. The next day, Zhang Shu meets with Miss Y, assuring her that while she failed to interview Xian the previous day, she is actively working to reschedule and will submit the piece on time. Miss Y notices Zhang Shu's sunglasses and asks about them. Zhang Shu removes them, revealing dark circles. Miss Y quips that if she wasn't interviewing Xian, she should have been celebrating her boyfriend's birthday and questions why she is crying. When Zhang Shu remains silent, Miss Y deduces, "Did your boyfriend cheat on you?" and upon confirmation laughs. Zhang Shu is taken aback by her reaction, but Miss Y explains she had always believed they were unsuitable. Zhang Shu agrees and turns to leave, but Miss Y offers her 2 days off to recover from the breakup. Zhang Shu proudly declares that her dark circles are a result of working on the Xian interview, not a cheater, and exits. In a subsequent scene, Zhang Shu visits a bakery, a place filled with memories of Xing. As she places her order, Xing arrives with his new girlfriend Chen Li. Zhang Shu overhears Xing pressuring Chen Li to speak to her uncle about getting him a job at the prestigious Minggu Group, to which Chen Li replies that the company's hearing system is very strict. Chen Li notices Zhang Shu and, feeling hungry, demands egg tarts. Xing, spotting Zhang Shu, becomes nervous and identifies her to Chen Li. In a confrontational move, Chen Li pushes past Zhang Shu. Angered by this behavior, Zhang Shu is about to retaliate when she notices the same golden brooch now adorning Chen Li's hand. She remarks caustically, "Some people like second-hand things very much," gives a sarcastic thumbs up to Xing and walks away, leaving a fuming Chen Li who exclaims, "She called you second-hand." Meanwhile, Xian is stopped at a traffic signal and observes Zhang Shu venting her frustrations on a nearby tree. When she turns around, she notices a car with a distinctive repeating number license plate and assumes it belongs to someone's uncle. She decides her priority is to secure the interview with Xian first. She approaches the car, knocks on the window, and claims her phone is dead, asking to borrow a power bank. Xian replies that he doesn't have one. Zhang Shu then asks for a ride to charge her phone in his car. Xian rolls down the window and Zhang Shu finally gets a clear look at him. He dryly remarks, "My car won't take a girl to her boyfriend." His assistant then calls out to Zhang Shu and she realizes the man in the car is Xian himself. She quickly changes her story, stating she is there to discuss the interview and suggesting they talk during the car ride without disrupting his schedule. Xian closes the window, stating it is his personal time and that she should make an appointment through his assistant if she wishes to meet him. After he drives away, the assistant looks back at Zhang Shu. Xian asks if he has time to schedule a meeting with her and the assistant replies in the negative. Later, Xian is discussing his weekly schedule with his assistant when he receives a message from Zhang Shu. The assistant seizes the moment to ask about the interview, and Xian agrees that the sooner it is done, the better. The assistant happily relays this to Zhang Shu. Seeing the assistant's reaction, Xian inquires what Zhang Shu is saying. The assistant reports that she is asking if he has time tomorrow. Xian, who is scheduled to go horseback riding with his uncle, instructs the assistant to invite Zhang Shu to join them there. Zhang Shu is working in her office when she receives the message that Xian is ready for the interview the next day. She is elated, and her colleague Yuling overhears the news. After Zhang Shu leaves, Yuling goes to her desk and finds her interview outline in a drawer. That evening at home, Zhang Shu is selecting an outfit for the interview with Shen's help, who insists she needs to look her best to make a good impression. The assistant confirms the interview time with Xian. The next day, Yuling arrives for the interview instead of Zhang Shu. Xian, surprised, asks, "Who are you?" Yuling explains that her friend was unavailable and sent her as a replacement. Xian asks to see her interview outline and after reviewing it begins the interview. Zhang Shu arrives at Xian's company later. While registering her name at the entrance, she sees Yuling's name on the list and is confused. She confronts the assistant, asking if the interview is still on schedule. The assistant informs her that since she was busy, Yuling took her place and has already conducted the interview. Zhang Shu is stunned. Just then, Xian arrives and walks past her without acknowledgement. Zhang Shu follows him, pointing out that while the basic part of the interview is complete, 5 crucial questions remain and she asks for a moment of his time. Xian asks what the questions are, and as Zhang Shu articulates them, he seems impressed and tells her to accompany him. As they head towards the elevator, the assistant receives a call from Xian's niece and puts it on speakerphone. The niece angrily demands to speak to her uncle. Xian sternly tells her that if she doesn't behave, she shouldn't come before him in the future. Zhang Shu comments, "If you have so much control over your niece, why don't you teach her to be a good person?" Upon reaching the parking lot, Xian informs Zhang Shu that his journey will take 2 hours and she can conduct the interview during that time. Zhang Shu agrees and gets into the car. Xian states he doesn't have much time and urges her to begin quickly. Zhang Shu suggests a brief, normal conversation first to ease into the interview. Xian counters by proposing they introduce themselves formally. After the introductions, the interview proceeds. During the journey, Zhang Shu asks her final, probing question: why he left his family business to start his own venture and whether his father supported him. This question triggers a flashback for Xian, where his father aging tells him the future of Minggu Group depends on him. Xian had replied that his brother-in-law was more capable and that he wanted to do something meaningful for himself. Xian then looks at his watch, declares the 2 hours are over, and pointedly does not answer her question. They arrive at the horseback riding venue. Xian dismisses her, telling her she can leave. Zhang Shu, realizing the remote location and her lack of transport, thinks to herself that since she came in his car, she will have to return in it. She approaches Xian and, mustering her courage, asks one final personal question: "Do you have a girlfriend?" She quickly adds that it is merely out of curiosity for the readers. Xian does not answer and walks away. At that moment, Uncle Guan arrives and asks Xian who she is. Zhang Shu introduces herself to Mr. Guan, who recognizes her name, complimenting her well-written articles and expressing surprise at her youth. He then notes that Xian has never brought a girl there before and laments that he is unprepared. As Xian is about to clarify, Zhang Shu distracts them by admiring the horses. Mr. Guan offers to show her the best horses inside and instructs Xian to give her a full tour. Zhang Shu follows Xian into a room where he announces he is going to change. Zhang Shu says she will wait for him. Mr. Guan then asks Zhang Shu if she knows how to ride a horse. When she says no, he insists she try, offering his wife's riding clothes. While changing, Zhang Shu hears Xian returning and in a moment of playful mischief calls out, "Mr. Shi, I don't know how to wear this belt. Can you teach me?" As she hears his footsteps approach, she quickly puts on her coat. Xian, hearing the noise from inside, deduces she is trying to play a trick on him. When he exits, he says if she doesn't know how to wear it, then she shouldn't ride. When Zhang Shu emerges, she finds Xian standing with his horse looking exceptionally handsome and she cannot help but stare. Mr. Guan brings a horse for Zhang Shu. She asks Xian if he will teach her and he agrees. They both mount the horse. Zhang Shu expresses nervousness as it is her first time. Xian begins by teaching her slowly but then tells her to hold on tight and suddenly urges the horse into a fast gallop. Terrified, Zhang Shu screams. After the ride, a shaken Zhang Shu dismounts. Xian asks if she doesn't want to learn more and she replies she was just experiencing it. Seeing her reaction, Xian smiles faintly, having done this intentionally. Zhang Shu sits to the side. Mr. Guan observes her and comments to Xian that she is very interesting and seems like his type. Xian denies any involvement, but Mr. Guan suggests that if he gave it a chance, something could develop in the future. Zhang Shu, overhearing part of the conversation, mistakenly believes Xian is still trying to embarrass her and internally vows that he won't even think about meeting her in the future. On the return journey, Xian instructs his driver to drop Zhang Shu home first. She looks at him, thinking he is very cool, but exhaustion from the day's events overwhelms her, and she falls asleep in the car. Xian, noticing this, shifts slightly, allowing her head to rest on his shoulder. When Zhang Shu awakens, she finds herself home alone and asks the driver where Xian is. The driver explains that Xian had other business and asked him to take her home first. As she gets out, she chastises herself for falling asleep in the interview car, something that has never happened before. While talking to herself, she touches her ear and makes a panicked realization. One of her earrings is missing, likely still in Xian's car. Later, as a result of the vigorous horse riding, Zhang Shu suffers from leg cramps but perseveres in writing her article. Meanwhile, while driving back, Xian discovers Zhang Shu's earring in his car. The next day, Zhang Shu submits her article to Miss Y. Miss Y asks if she has anything to add, and Zhang Shu proposes using the audio from Xian's interview in their digital magazine. Miss Y likes the idea but cites a lack of funds. Zhang Shu argues that upgrading to digital content will attract paying readers. Miss Y promises to discuss it with the editor-in-chief, and Zhang Shu thanks her. Later, a colleague named Neon informs Zhang Shu that Yuling, who interviewed Xian, has submitted her article, and he suspects she copied Zhang Shu's interview outline. This triggers Zhang Shu's memory of the car interview, recalling how Xian had paused when she asked certain questions, likely because he recognized they were repeats from Yuling's session. She laments her series of blunders, the horse riding, falling asleep in his car. Neon defends Xian, saying he is a good person for granting her an interview despite his busy schedule. Zhang Shu retorts that he is not that good, that his mood is volatile, and that he seems to enjoy others' mistakes, though she concedes he is not a bad person. Later, as Zhang Shu stands outside her office, Xing approaches and offers her a ride, which she refuses. He mentions he will be working at Minggu Group soon. At that moment, Shen arrives and sarcastically remarks that if his girlfriend's uncle has influence, it shouldn't take days to get him a job. An embarrassed Xing leaves. Shen then advises Zhang Shu that it's difficult to claim sole credit for the headline coverage, and that she needs to find another opportunity to meet Xian. Zhang Shu complains about his strangeness and the fact she doesn't have his WeChat. Shen encourages her to fight for her goal and shares a story about a girl who used a clever trick to meet Xian. Inspired, Zhang Shu remembers her missing earring and tells Shen she has left something with Xian. Shen declares this the perfect opportunity to see him again. On his end, Xian is looking at Zhang Shu's earring. Zhang Shu calls his assistant, who hands the phone to Xian. Zhang Shu explains that she believes she left an earring in his car and asks if he has seen it. Xian, holding the earring, says he has not. Zhang Shu insists on its immense sentimental value, claiming her grandmother gave it to her mother, who then gave it to her, and that she plans to wear it at her wedding. Xian skeptically points out that this priceless heirloom appears to be made of plastic. Zhang Shu elaborates that her grandparents were poor, making even a plastic earring the most precious of family heirlooms. Amused, Xian laughs. He then gives the earring to his assistant with instructions to return it to Zhang Shu. The assistant asks her when she needs it, and Zhang Shu, seizing the chance, says she needs it immediately and will come to collect it herself. After getting the address, she sets off. When Xian arrives home, he instructs his niece to stay in her room until he calls for her. Zhang Shu soon arrives at his house, stating her purpose. Xian shows her the earring on a table. As she goes to retrieve it, she notices an album by her favorite singer and asks if he likes them too. Simultaneously, he receives a call from Guanji, who questions why he canceled their meeting and is at home, joking if he is on a date. Xian brushes him off, saying he is busy. He then asks Zhang Shu if she has anything else to say. Zhang Shu uses the opportunity to pitch her idea for a special series based on his interview. As she speaks, Xian moves closer and asks what she would like to drink. She requests lemonade and he goes to prepare it. While he is making the drink, Zhang Shu watches him intently. When he hands her the glass, she hears footsteps from another room and notices what appear to be women's clothes on the sofa. She asks if she is disturbing him and his girlfriend. Xian is surprised by the term girlfriend. Zhang Shu clarifies, the girl in the room is not your girlfriend. Xian explains it is his niece. Upon hearing this, Zhang Shu quickly takes the lemonade and makes a hasty exit, leaving the earring behind. Xian looks at the forgotten earring, thinking to himself that her trick to see him again was a good one, even if it failed in its immediate goal. After reaching home, Zhang Shu realizes she has left the earring a second time and despairs over how to contact Xian again without his number. She is fraught with worry. Meanwhile, as Xian prepares for bed, he finds himself thinking about Zhang Shu while looking at the earring, a subtle smile perhaps playing on his lips, indicating the beginning of a budding interest in the persistent and intriguing reporter. The following morning, within the confines of her office bathroom, Zhang Shu becomes an unwilling audience to a conversation Yuling is having. Yuling expresses her profound frustration, lamenting her bad luck regarding the interview with Xian. She complains that he failed to provide substantial answers to her questions, resulting in nothing more than a superficial and general discussion. Overhearing this, Zhang Shu is immediately struck by a stark contrast. She reflects internally that Xian had in fact been remarkably forthcoming with her, offering a wealth of detailed information. Yuling continues her phone conversation, making a pointed and derisive remark that Zhang Shu can do something for the interview and that she has ways, implying underhanded methods. Incensed by this insinuation, Zhang Shu confronts Yuling directly. In the ensuing tension, Yuling's phone slips from her hand. As Yuling departs, Zhang Shu delivers a cutting, sarcastic retort, "Thank you for your compliment." Fueled by this encounter, Zhang Shu proceeds to Miss Y's office to report the entire incident. Miss Y reveals that she is already aware of the situation and has issued a warning to Yuling. Zhang Shu, feeling the injustice more deeply, questions whether a mere warning is sufficient punishment for someone who effectively stole her headline coverage. Miss Y, employing a more strategic perspective, responds that Yuling's actions have ultimately backfired. By delivering a subpar interview, she has inadvertently proven Zhang Shu's superior skill and professionalism, which constitutes her true failure. Seizing the moment, Zhang Shu seeks confirmation, asking if Xian had personally chosen her interview outline. Miss Y affirms that he had. In a parallel narrative, Xian is sharing a breakfast with his niece Kua. She lavishes praise on him, noting that her uncle is not only a business prodigy but also an excellent cook. Xian, ever the disciplinarian, urges her to eat quickly so she can leave for work. The mere mention of work triggers Kua's memory of a supposedly very important task, a transparent excuse to avoid her duties. Xian sees through her ruse immediately and issues a stern ultimatum. If she steps out of the house, he will deactivate her credit card. Cornered, Kua resorts to flattering her uncle, attempting to philosophize that a person doesn't work solely for money, but to find meaningful contributions to society, all in a desperate bid to evade going to work. Later, Xian drives Kua to her workplace. Upon arrival, his attention is captured by the sight of Zhang Shu. He brings the car to a halt and watches her intently as she makes her way into the building and boards the lift, his gaze lingering on her until she disappears from view. When Zhang Shu enters her office, her colleague Neon informs her that 2 new interns have joined their team. She is then summoned to Miss Y's office, where she is told that these interns will be assigned to her team and that she is expected to lead them. Zhang Shu protests, citing a lack of time and energy to train a newcomer. Miss Y, having anticipated this, reveals she has arranged for assistants to help manage the burden. Reluctantly and out of respect for Miss Y, Zhang Shu agrees to take on the responsibility. Neon, meanwhile, is reviewing Kua's resume and is appalled by her very poor GPA. She warns Zhang Shu that she has a new problem to handle. In a subsequent scene, Yuling arrives for an interview with Guangji. Just as the interview is about to commence, Guangji receives a frantic call from Kua, who pleads for help, dramatically claiming her uncle has put her in jail. Guangji, familiar with Xian's unwavering resolve, replies that once Xian makes up his mind, no one can change it. Hearing Xian's name, Yuling's interest is piqued, and she begins to formulate a plan to potentially meet Xian through a connection with Guangji. After the call, Yuling proceeds with the interview. Upon its conclusion, she asks Guangji for his contact number under the pretext of confirming the interview draft, a common excuse reporters use to obtain contacts. Guangji, seeing through the ploy, politely ends the interaction, stating he was happy with the interview but has other pressing matters to attend to, and makes a swift exit. Zhang Shu then meets the new intern who will be joining her team, Kua. Kua is engrossed in her phone when Zhang Shu approaches. In a gesture of formality, Kua presents Zhang Shu with a gift. Zhang Shu, maintaining professional boundaries, immediately returns it. Kua persists, approaching Zhang Shu again with the gift, explaining that as a new employee who knows nothing, she hopes for future guidance and offers the gift as a small token. Zhang Shu firmly declines, stating it is unnecessary, and instructs Kua that if she has questions, she can simply ask. She then hands Kua a recorder containing the audio of her interview with Xian, tasking her with organizing the questions and answers. As Kua is about to leave, Zhang Shu reminds her to take the rejected gift with her. When Kua finally listens to the interview recording, she is astonished to discover that Zhang Shu had interviewed her uncle Xian. She is further shocked by the interview's extensive 2-hour duration, exclaiming in disbelief, "How can my uncle talk for so long?" In her agitated state, she accidentally spills water on her keyboard, causing her computer to short-circuit and shut down. This accident forces her to rewrite the entire draft from scratch, and she leaves the office in a fury. Later, Yuling is formally introducing all the interns. Noticing Kua's absence, she asks Zhang Shu where her intern is. Zhang Shu coolly replies that office hours are over, so she has gone home. Yuling, seizing the opportunity to tease Zhang Shu, loudly tells her own intern, "Come, we should go and work now," making a show of her team's diligence. Meanwhile, Neon informs Zhang Shu that Yuling's intern, Chung, graduated from a top media college and has even received an award for his work. Refusing to be drawn into comparison, Zhang Shu states that she won't feel bad as long as she doesn't compare herself to Yuling. That evening, Kua goes to her grandfather's house for dinner, where Xian is also present. Kua, still resentful, directs her anger at her uncle and complains about him to their grandfather. Xian's father questions Xian about why he chose the field of journalism for Kua. Xian replies pragmatically that she isn't capable of doing anything else. When her grandfather asks Kua about her day, she complains that she had to transcribe a 2-hour interview all by herself. Her grandfather inquires who her supervisor is, and she reveals it is Zhang Shu. Xian interjects, stating that if Zhang Shu gave her the work, she should do it properly and try to learn from her. Kua, however, counters by complaining that when she didn't understand something and repeatedly asked Zhang Shu for help, Zhang Shu didn't even look at her once. Meanwhile, Zhang Shu receives an encouraging message from Miss Y informing her that her interview draft has been internally reviewed and found to have no issues, and has consequently been sent to Xian for his final approval. Zhang Shu is overjoyed, wishing she could have discussed the interview directly with him. After returning home, Xian calls Mr. Yu, asking if he has free time in the next 2 days. Mr. Yu invites him to go rock climbing, and Xian agrees, asking for the address. Following the call, Xian begins reading Zhang Shu's submitted interview draft. The next morning, Neon and Zhang Shu are discussing the approved interview when Kua overhears them. Realizing the situation, Kua thinks to herself, "The time has come when I have to tell her about my uncle." Shortly after, Zhang Shu receives a devastating message. Her interview has been rejected without any reason provided. Zhang Shu is utterly bewildered, while Kua is privately delighted, thinking, "My uncle loves me a lot." After a team meeting concludes, Miss Y pulls Zhang Shu aside and asks if anything occurred during the interview that might have angered Xian. Zhang Shu insists nothing happened, and that if anyone should be angry, it's her, given that she nearly fell from a horse that day. Miss Y suggests that Zhang Shu message Xian on WeChat to inquire directly. Zhang Shu explains she doesn't have his contact, prompting Miss Y to immediately send her Xian's number. On his end, Xian is rock climbing with Mr. Yu, who compliments his skill. Zhang Shu's message then arrives. "I want to talk to you about the interview draft." After waiting a long time without a reply, she calls Xian's assistant, requesting that he inform Xian she needs to discuss an important matter. The assistant relays the message, noting that Zhang Shu seemed worried and had mentioned calling him directly. Xian checks his phone and sees 10 missed calls. The assistant suggests he call her back. Xian, seemingly contemplative, asks, "Do you think I should call her back?" After a pause, Zhang Shu receives a terse message from Xian. "I don't discuss private matters during working hours and in the working environment." Perplexed, Zhang Shu ponders the meaning of his message. If it's about work, then there must be a problem with her draft that she can discuss with him. If it's about private matters, the only connection is that Xian still has her earring. Deciding on a course of action, she grabs her bag and leaves the office. Simultaneously, Xian finds himself thinking about Zhang Shu. His assistant, noticing his preoccupation, finds him preparing to leave and asks if he is going to wait for Zhang Shu at his home. Meanwhile, Zhang Shu is indeed on her way to Xian's house. En route, she spots his car. As she approaches to knock on the window, Xian emerges from the vehicle and asks why she has come to see him at this hour. Zhang Shu, with surprising boldness, replies, "I felt like you want to see me, so I came here to meet you." Xian questions the basis of her feeling. Zhang Shu elaborates, explaining that her senior editor and industry expert found no flaws in her draft, yet Xian rejected it 3 times without feedback. She demands to know his reason for this and for wanting to meet. Xian looks at her for a prolonged moment before stating his first reason. He is not satisfied with her draft. Zhang Shu immediately offers to rewrite any part that displeases him. As Xian starts to walk away, Zhang Shu stops him, asserting that if he cannot specify what is wrong, it must mean he wanted to see her, and that is the real reason for his actions. Xian then clarifies that the interview's focus should be on his work, not his personal life. Zhang Shu accepts this critique but argues that he cannot ask her to rewrite the entire article for one problem, especially as it is now very late. Expressing her desire to perfect the article, she pleads for his help and promptly sits down, opening her laptop right there. Seeing her determined posture, Xian relents and invites her inside to work. Zhang Shu hesitates, asking if it's appropriate for her to be at his home for so long. Xian assures her that no one will disturb them. Once inside, Xian quickly slips Zhang Shu's earring into his pocket. As he observes her diligently working, he realizes she genuinely came to edit the draft. Elsewhere, Kua is conspiring with Gwanji. She believes a rare bottle of wine will be the perfect gift to appease her uncle and get her out of work. Gwanji agrees it's a good plan but warns her that if Xian discovers her true motive, he doesn't know how he will react. Kua is confident, believing this bottle of wine is her only salvation. Back at Xian's home, he observes Zhang Shu working and prepares lemonade for her. She thanks him, visibly happy, and finds herself stealing glances at him. Xian pours himself a glass of wine. Zhang Shu, distracted by his presence, struggles to focus on her work. When Xian stands close to her, her nervousness intensifies and her writing falters. Noticing her unease, Xian asks if anything is wrong. Zhang Shu, flustered, requests some wine herself. Xian brings her a glass and sits nearby to read, but an unspoken tension fills the room as they continue to exchange glances. Kua then calls Xian, announcing she is on her way over, but Xian firmly stops her. Zhang Shu, overhearing, asks if his niece is returning. Xian remarks that she seems quite interested in his niece. Zhang Shu laughs it off, saying she has no reason to be interested as she doesn't even know her. Meanwhile, Kua tells Gwanji that her uncle refused her visit. Gwanji notes that Xian used the busy excuse the previous night as well, speculating that Xian might be hiding a girl at home. This excites Kua immensely, as it would mean that after 3 years her uncle is finally seeing someone. She eagerly asks Gwanji if he has met the girl, to which he replies that Xian has never brought a girlfriend home before. Zhang Shu completes her revisions and asks Xian to review them. He still isn't fully satisfied, so she begins rewriting sections again. When she presents the new draft, Xian finally concedes that it is acceptable. Zhang Shu, seizing the opening, asks if they can move ahead. Puzzled, Xian asks what she means. Zhang Shu explains she wants to do a special coverage series with him, building on their last conversation. Xian questions what his benefit would be. Zhang Shu promises to write all the articles for the series but makes a small request. She wants them all published in the Financial Digital magazine. Xian points out that he hasn't even agreed to the special coverage yet, and she is already asking for another favor. Zhang Shu apologizes, acknowledging she should have discussed it after the interview. Xian remains silent on the matter. Zhang Shu then asks if he can send the confirmation email for her draft. Xian states that this will be handled by his company's PR department and that he will read it again that night. Zhang Shu assures him she has no problem with further edits if he finds any issues. Xian then poses a personal question, asking if her boyfriend has a problem with her working at a stranger's house so late. Zhang Shu reveals she doesn't have a boyfriend. Surprised, Xian learns that she broke up with her boyfriend on the very day they first met. Emboldened, Zhang Shu moves closer to Xian and asks, "So can I chase you?" Xian, intrigued, counters, "If I refuse, will you stop?" Zhang Shu confidently says no. Xian then questions why she bothered asking. Zhang Shu simply states she's just following the process. Xian hands her the laptop, indicating the draft is complete and she can leave. As she departs, Zhang Shu tells him she will add him on WeChat, suggesting he can talk to her when he's bored since she is very good at chatting. Xian says nothing but opens the door for her. As Zhang Shu leaves, Kua and Gwanji arrive and see her exiting the house. Kua identifies Zhang Shu as her senior and claims her uncle doesn't like her because he rejected her draft 3 times. Once inside, Kua spots a lipstick mark on a wine glass and excitedly declares a girl must have been there. Xian reminds her he told her to go to her grandfather's house. Kua presents the bottle of wine as her reason for visiting. Xian tells her she should leave as she has to wake up early. Kua, probing, asks why he didn't ask that girl to wait. When Xian feigns ignorance, Kua points to the glass and asks if the girl wasn't beautiful enough or if she rejected him. Later, Zhang Shu is having dinner at home with Shen. She confesses that for the first time in her life she confessed to someone, only to be thrown out of his house afterward. Shen, drawing on romantic novel tropes, suggests that the more a boy loves a girl, the harder he makes it for her, and that Xian fits this pattern perfectly. She then asks Zhang Shu if her confession was genuine or just for the article. Zhang Shu dismisses the idea, but Shen senses something is fishy and believes Zhang Shu has real feelings for him. Meanwhile, Kua tells Xian that if he likes Zhang Shu, he should tell her. Xian deflects the conversation, questioning if she has too much free time and suggesting the work from the magazine is too easy for her, inviting her to come and do more demanding work with him. Hearing this, Kua makes a hasty exit. Zhang Shu then messages Xian, offering unsolicited weather advice for his travels. Xian reads the message. The next morning at work, Kua scrutinizes Zhang Shu carefully and comments that her lipstick looks very nice. Zhang Shu takes out her lipstick and offers it to her. Kua examines it and declares it's not this one. In another location, Xian and Mr. Yu are at a shooting range. Mr. Yu receives a call from Zhang Shu requesting an interview. Xian is immediately alert upon hearing her name. Mr. Yu tells Zhang Shu he will check his schedule and get back to her. Later, both Yuling and Zhang Shu are in Miss Y's office, each vying for the front page spot. Miss Y declares that if Xian's company does not reply by tonight, they will publish Yuling's interview. Anxious, Zhang Shu messages Xian, urgently requesting the confirmation email, but he ignores her message and instead challenges Mr. Yu to another round of shooting. The atmosphere in Zhang Shu's office is tense as everyone awaits the decision for the front page. Zhang Shu is visibly worried. Shortly after, Miss Y receives the long-awaited email confirming the approval of Zhang Shu's interview. She announces the good news to the entire staff, and Zhang Shu is elated. She sends a thank you message to Xian, followed by several other messages, which Xian reads and finds amusing. The next day, Zhang Shu meets a famous influencer named Saitamo. Saitamo assumes Zhang Shu must have been promoted to chief editor by now. Zhang Shu clarifies that she is still in her previous position. Saitamo then asks if she is still with Xing. Zhang Shu confirms they have broken up. In a shocking revelation, Saitamo comments that when Xing was dating Zhang Shu in college, he used to spend time with her when he couldn't go on dates with Zhang Shu. Shen is outraged by this confession, but Zhang Shu, displaying maturity, dismisses it as all in the past. As they head back, Zhang Shu tells Shen that Saitamo was right about one thing: she shouldn't delay her plan to upgrade the digital magazine. Shen advises her to also focus more on Xian. Zhang Shu confidently declares she will work on the digital magazine and win Xian over. She then sends a playful message to Xian: "You should come to pick me up because I miss you." Coincidentally, as Xian reads this, he spots Zhang Shu standing on the roadside looking at her phone. He pulls over and both Zhang Shu and Shen are surprised to see him. As Zhang Shu gets into his car, she feels awkward and asks how he arrived so quickly. Xian casually replies he was just passing by. Zhang Shu, making conversation, asks if his assistant is around. Xian, seemingly displeased by the question, asks what she needs from him. Zhang Shu backtracks, saying she was just wondering what he was doing and that she could text him. When Shen gets out of the car, Zhang Shu follows suit. Shen explains she was trying to give them some space. Zhang Shu admits she didn't even look at his face and doesn't know what she said wrong. Shen points out that she called Xian to pick her up and then started talking about another boy, suggesting Xian must have been jealous. Zhang Shu finds the idea of Xian being jealous of his assistant impossible. She messages Xian directly. "Were you jealous?" Xian replies cryptically. "You seem to have a lot of free time and so do I." Zhang Shu doesn't understand his message. Shen advises her to ignore it for a few days, but Zhang Shu starts typing a reply. In the ensuing struggle, Shen accidentally sends a message composed of random letters to Xian. Shen decides this is for the best, letting Xian guess its meaning. That evening, Kua is out with Guanji. Xian, puzzled, forwards Zhang Shu's garbled message to Kua, asking what it means. Kua is equally confused and shows it to Guanji, who speculates it might have been sent by mistake. At that moment, Shen arrives, having been invited by Guanji, though she seems displeased to see him with Kua. Guanji steps aside to take a call. A boy approaches Kua and asks for her number. Uninterested, Kua tries to leave, but the boy grabs her hand. Shen intervenes, offering the boy a number, which turns out to be the police hotline number. The boy takes it and leaves. Kua thanks Shen for her quick thinking. Shen explains her actions and Kua laughs, calling her smart. Meanwhile, Xian calls Guanji, still concerned about the strange message, and finds himself thinking about Zhang Shu while looking at her earring. Kua later tells him what happened with the boy. Guanji suggests Xian should have a drink with Zhang Shu to thank her. He asks Kua where Shen is, but Shen is already leaving. Guanji spots her and asks why she didn't join them for a drink. Shen, appearing somewhat upset, declines, saying she's tired and will drink with him another time. Xian remains preoccupied with the message, and Zhang Shu too waits for his reply. Later, Zhang Shu meets with Mr. Yu and asks him why he returned to China from abroad. During their conversation, Zhang Shu receives a call from her mother, who pressures her about marriage. After the call, Mr. Yu sympathizes, saying his mother does the same. Zhang Shu remarks that they should have met earlier as they have a lot in common. Mr. Yu agrees, and Zhang Shu seizes the opportunity to ask for a detailed interview, to which he happily consents. The scene concludes with the mention of an upcoming press conference for the Goyan group. The following week holds significant professional promise for Zhang Shu, as Mr. Yu extends an invitation to an event, assuring her it will be highly informative for her upcoming interview with him. Grateful for the opportunity, she thanks him sincerely. Later, back at the office, Zhang Shu delegates a task to her intern, Kua, instructing her to dispose of a stack of rejected drafts using the shredder. As Kua is carrying out this duty, another intern named Chung approaches, burdened with his own pile of papers for disposal. He offers to take over, suggesting Kua can leave her documents with him. Agreeing, Kua departs. Upon returning to her workstation, Zhang Shu makes a disquieting discovery. Her formal invitation card to the event is missing. She questions Kua, who insists she never saw the card amidst the papers she was given to shred. A growing sense of dread prompts Zhang Shu to investigate the shredder bin, where her fears are confirmed. She finds distinctive red fragments that unmistakably belong to her invitation. The situation draws the attention of Yuling, who quickly intervenes to defend Kua, asserting the intern would never deliberately destroy something so important. Kua maintains her innocence, reiterating that the invitation was not within the stack she was tasked with destroying. Displaying a resilience that has become characteristic of her, Zhang Shu refuses to be derailed. She calmly states that while the physical card is gone, her resolve to attend is not. She assures everyone she will find an alternative way to gain entry. As Yuling prepares to leave, Zhang Shu delivers a pointed revelation. The drafts Yuling's team needed shredded were attached to that very invitation card. This forces Yuling to confront her own intern, Chung, who admits he had passed the entire bundle to Kua for shredding. The pieces fall into place, and Kua, realizing she was an unwitting participant in the mishap, offers a heartfelt apology to Zhang Shu. With characteristic grace, Zhang Shu accepts, confirming she knows it was not Kua's fault. In a separate development, Xian comes across the digital publication of his audio interview, expertly produced by Zhang Shu for her magazine. A thought crosses his mind to share it on his social media, but he hesitates, realizing that since they are not connected on WeChat, she would never see his gesture. At his home, his niece Kua discusses Zhang Shu's invitation predicament with Guangji. When Xian inquires if Zhang Shu personally asked for her help, Kua explains it was her own initiative, a desire to assist. The next day, Zhang Shu arrives at her desk to find a replacement invitation card waiting for her. She questions Kua, who proudly explains she contacted the Goyang Group's PR department, clarified the unfortunate shredding incident, and successfully secured a new invitation. Zhang Shu expresses her gratitude. In a further gesture of thanks, Kua presents her with a gift. Zhang Shu, however, politely declines, nodding that she should be the one giving gifts. The ease with which Kua obtained the invitation from a major corporation leads Zhang Shu to privately speculate about her intern's potentially wealthy background and powerful connections. She concludes the interaction by telling Kua that the best way to thank her is through hard work, not gifts. At the press conference, which Zhang Shu now attends, Xian is also present, and she is visibly impressed by his commanding speech. Later, when Mr. Yu is speaking, his gaze momentarily rests on Zhang Shu. Seizing the moment, she introduces her close friend, Shen, a journalist in the entertainment industry, to him. Mr. Yu, in a friendly and accommodating manner, promises to introduce them to his own circle of friends, glancing meaningfully towards Xian and nodding that one of them is gone. He subsequently introduces both women to Guangji. Frustrated by Xian's consistent silence in response to her serious professional messages, Zhang Shu decides on a new, unconventional strategy. She resolves to send him a completely nonsensical message, hoping the absurdity might finally provoke a reaction. Meanwhile, Xian is in a celebratory mood with Mr. Yu, toasting the successful inclusion of a major investor, Bruce, into his company. It is at this moment that he receives Zhang Shu's bizarre message, which brings an unexpected smile to his face. Guangji, observing his friend's unusually cheerful demeanor, comments on his strange behavior lately and questions where he disappeared to during the press conference, but Xian offers no clear explanation. Growing impatient, Zhang Shu sends another message, directly questioning his lack of response. Later that evening, as she arrives home, a reply finally arrives from Xian, accusing her of behaving like a nonsense person. The message leaves Zhang Shu utterly surprised. The following day, her colleague Neon informs her that the date for the Minggu Group's annual conference has been set and assumes Zhang Shu must have received her invitation. Zhang Shu checks her phone anxiously but finds nothing, her expression immediately falling. Just then, a courier arrives, and her hopes soar, thinking Xian has personally sent her the invitation. Her joy is short-lived, however, as the delivery is for Yuling, who is overjoyed to receive the coveted invite from Minggu, leaving Zhang Shu visibly disappointed. Seeking solace, Zhang Shu goes to Miss Y's office. Her editor, noticing her dejection, tries to cheer her up by reminding her of the many front-page stories she has secured this year. Zhang Shu explains that attending the Minggu conference is crucial for the special coverage she is planning. Miss Y suggests that if she does manage to go, she should take Kua with her. Zhang Shu protests, stating her own attendance is uncertain, and that she doubts her ability to effectively guide the intern. Miss Y, however, expresses confidence that Kua will learn valuable lessons from her. Relenting, Zhang Shu agrees. After leaving the office, Zhang Shu instructs Kua to begin gathering research on the Minggu press conference, informing her that she will be accompanying her. When Kua points out the obvious lack of an invitation, Zhang Shu confidently asserts that securing entry is her responsibility, not Kua's concern. On his end, Xian, with Zhang Shu on his mind, calls his office to confirm that all relevant media houses have received their invitations, receiving an affirmative response. On the day of the conference, Yuling arrives and is flattered to be escorted to a front-row seat, with staff explaining that her media house is considered a very important partner and that the CEO himself requested special seating for her. However, when Xian enters the hall and sees Yuling in the prime location, his displeasure is evident. The manager approaches him, explaining the front row was allocated to key media partners. Xian responds with a curt remark about the manager needing to improve his professional skills before walking away. The manager, confused, then consults Xian's assistant, reminding him that he was instructed to take special care of the female journalist from Lin Media. The assistant immediately rectifies the error, and the manager informs a bewildered Yuling that a staff mistake led to her being seated incorrectly. As Xian sits in the lounge, contemplating sending a message to Zhang Shu but ultimately deciding against it, Shen masterfully orchestrates entry for herself, Zhang Shu, and Kua. When staff stop them, stating only one person is allowed per invitation, Zhang Shu selflessly tells Shen to take Kua inside, assuring them she will find her own way. Kua, however, refuses to leave her supervisor alone. Spotting her uncle Xian approaching, Kua quickly slips inside to avoid him. Seizing the opportunity, Zhang Shu approaches Xian, commenting on how busy he has been. He walks past without a word. Undeterred, Zhang Shu uses the VIP entrance to gain access to the conference. Once inside, she notices Yuling and can't resist asking Xian if he believes Yuling interviews better than she does. He deflects, stating that sending invitations is not part of his job description. His assistant then escorts Zhang Shu to her seat, apologizing for the PR department's error which mistakenly sent her invitation to Yuling, and clarifying that Xian had specifically arranged this seat for her. Zhang Shu then inquires if her two colleagues can join her, and the assistant readily agrees, soon escorting Shen and Kua to sit with her. As the conference begins, Xian makes a grand entrance. Zhang Shu sends him a message proclaiming, "You are the coolest CEO." He reads it but gives no outward reaction, and as he begins his keynote speech, the episode concludes. In a separate narrative, the drama introduces a new female lead, Linchin. She's attending a board of directors meeting, accompanied by her bodyguard, a necessary precaution since she recently lost her eyesight in an accident. Her handsome bodyguard, the male lead Xiao Mu, is her constant protector. During the meeting, she receives a call from her fiancé, Qin, who urgently warns her of a trap and pleads with her to leave as the situation is dangerous. Linchin, however, is resolute, determined to handle her father's company and face any peril head-on. Since bodyguards are not permitted inside the meeting room, Xiao Mu devises an alternative. He removes his necklace and fastens it around her neck, explaining that it is equipped with a discreet butt. He instructs her that if she encounters any trouble or danger whatsoever, she need only press the butt, and he will immediately come to her rescue.